Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Elemental Awakening. I'm your host, Gio, and I have a very special guest today. Her name is Natalie Jill. She is an amazing human being. I'm so grateful that I got to meet her. She's a best-selling author, speaker, mom. She kills fat for a living, and she is 48 going on 29, I'd say. Inspirational role model for many, many women. And we're going to hear all about her story today, and a lot of amazing things are going to inspire you and educate you. And I just can't wait to have this conversation. So thank you so much for being here today.
I'm going to chat with you again. We did this once in Costa Rica. We should have known that the wind was going to kill the inner. So I'm happy to have the conversation again. Love catching up with you.
Yeah. So we did meet in Costa Rica at a plant medicine retreat. We're going to dive into that today. And we had a great chat, about 20 minutes or so, that sort of the audio got totally ruined on. So here we are. So let's just start off by telling people a bit about who you are, how you got into the role you are playing today in your life, and type of lifestyle you live.
Yeah. Good question. So, well, I always want to first say that I am just like everybody else. I'm just like you listening. So I was nothing special. Well, we're all special, but I'm really just like everybody else. And I found myself in my mid-30s. I was a new single mom. I was going through a divorce. I had just had my daughter, and I found myself for the first time in my life really in a deep depression. And what was happening then, this was back in 2008. And I don't know if you remember what was happening in our world, Gio, back in 2008, 2009, but especially here in the US, my gosh, the economy had collapsed, the housing market had collapsed. My world as I knew it was completely changing. And I say that because I had always done the good girl thing, went to college, got married, had the house with the picket fence and the 2 dogs, having the child, corporate America job. I did all the things on the checklist, and all of a sudden my whole world was changing. I had gained a lot of weight when I was pregnant. 60 pounds, which might not sound like a lot, but when you're 5'2" as myself, and you ate McDonald's, French fries, and chocolate fudge sundaes the whole pregnancy, it was definitely a lot of weight gain for me. My marriage was failing. I knew we were getting a divorce. I couldn't afford my house any longer. I had to take a voluntary job demotion because my job required travel full time, and I couldn't do that as a single mom. And I was massively in debt. And it was the first time in my life I had ever been in debt. And what made it all worse is I didn't know the word authentic then. If you had said, "Are you authentic?" I would have said, "Sure." But no one in my life knew what was going on with me because I didn't want to tell them. I was too embarrassed. I was literally living this fake life where I felt like I had no one to talk to or to share. So the only reason I swear that I got up every single day was because I had a daughter. That was it. Otherwise, my life felt like it was over. I know now that was probably clinical depression. I just didn't know that then. And it was bad. And I spent about 4 months in this really bad rock bottom place, literally dragging myself out of bed. And there was a moment when I was walking my 2 dogs and pushing the stroller, and I caught a glimpse of myself on one of those windows that have like a mirror reflection on it. And I remember looking at myself, and I, for the first time, didn't recognize myself. I thought, okay, there's stuff hanging on me. I look, the sunken in eyes, depressed, sad. And I thought, is this what happens when you're 36? I was 36 at the time. Is this what happens? Like, you just have a kid and your life is over. And I remember having a moment of this voice in the back of my head that said, there's more for you. It's not just this, there's more for you. And I remember walking home, and I kept replaying, there's more for me. There's more for me. What is more for me? I put my daughter down for a nap, and I created a vision board. I call them decision boards now. But this is back. Do you remember The Secret, when the movie The Secret was out? Yep. Okay. So I had just watched that and saw something on Oprah about it, and a vision board stood out to me. So I made a vision board, and on that vision board, it was very transformative for me, because as I was pulling out pictures from magazines, I started noticing that I had these moments of hope and happiness. And it was my first experience with creating a vision for something else. And I remember I put happy couples on there, and fit girls, and ocean. I just put things that made me happy. And I noticed that feeling for that first moment. And I said to myself, wow, if I can look at this vision board every single day and evoke this feeling, then something's got to shift. And that's what started my life completely changing.
That's the equation right there. Like that there, like how you intuitively figured that out. Like obviously something higher was putting you onto your life path, because like now you play
Yeah.
such an important role inspiring so many women. But like that secret there is like making a decision to make a change, but then visualizing and feeling that emotion is like, and doing it daily. You mix those three things together, do it consistently. You're right. Like, but it's amazing how you just like intuitively figure it out. Like that's
Well,
amazing.
and I didn't know what I know now. So now I have like a whole process behind that, but I didn't even know what I was doing then, but I knew, I recognized that feeling of hope. And I remember I would look at that board every day, and I remember this sticker, and I still have that old board, by the way. And I'm looking at a new board as I'm talking to you. I keep veering to the side because I always have my other vision, my new vision board in front of me right now.
I would love to see your vision board, your new vision board.
So when I would look at it, and I remember looking at the fit girl I put on there, and this is before I did anything with fitness or nutrition or any of that. And I remember thinking, if I was her, what decisions would I make today? What would I eat? What would I listen to? How would I move my body? What would I read? Who would I talk to? What questions would I ask? And I would just stare at that board and go, because I was not that person right then. I was overweight, sad, depressed, all the broken feeling. But I knew the girl on the board was not. So instead of being Natalie at that time, I would look at the board and go, what would she do? And I started making decision after decision, one decision after at a time, based on what the girl on the board would do. And at the time I had my Facebook now, my gosh, my Facebook has almost 2 million people on my business page. But at the time I had 100 friends, from high school on my Facebook page. And I remember going on that page and saying, okay, guys, I'm a mess, and I'm going to start changing things, and I'm going to post here for accountability to myself. And that literally, Gio, launched my whole business. And I didn't have a business plan at the time, but just because for the first time in my life, I was truly authentic and vulnerable and shared, drew people in, and people started following what I was doing. And because I was so open and sharing what I was eating, how I was moving my body, what I was reading, what I was thinking, people were following. And my business was literally born from that, from my rock bottom place.
How often were you sharing? Was like once a day you do a post? Like
every day I would post I was like that original what I eat post. No one does that anymore. I'd be like, what I'm eating. Here's my fish and broccoli. What I'm doing, and I didn't have any agenda other than my own accountability at the time.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about that process there. So as you start embarking on this sort of self-accountability program, when did it become like, oh, wow, like I'm changing, but I'm also inspiring, and maybe there's a business here. Like how did that sort of unfold for you? Yeah.
So I started sharing like everything I was doing, and it was working. My body was changing. So I remember going, working out and looking at my body and going, I see like some abs coming. I'm going to become a fitness model. I just kept the vision thing was working for me. So I'm like, I'm going to just put another random goal out there. So I remember I was like, I'm going to be a fitness model. Now keep in mind, I'm in my late 30s now at this time. And I'm like, I'm going to be a fitness model. And, anyone I told that to laughed at me. They're like, okay. You're like, that's something for 25-year-olds, not 39, So, but I did it. I remember I got on my first, magazine cover in my late 30s. And I was sharing all this on social media. So what happened was people were asking me, how are you eating? What are you doing? So I sat down one weekend and I wrote what's now a best-selling book in stores called 7-Day Jumpstart. But I wrote out in one weekend on a PDF that was 12 pages long, my whole process, starting with the vision board. I decided, I made a vision board. I evoked those feelings. Everything I just said to you, I started studying food. I became a licensed master sports nutritionist because I wanted to get over the confusion overload about food. I became a personal trainer for myself. I did all this for myself to learn. And I wrote everything in this 12-page PDF. I didn't even spell check it. I had horrible graphics on there. And I basically put it on my Facebook and said, who wants to do this? And I charged $35, and people would send me a little PayPal. I would email them the file, and I had 12 customers initially. And from those 12 customers, they all had amazing results their first week. All of them lost the bloat, had their energy. So when they would message me and say, Natalie, this is amazing. I just lost 5 pounds. I lost 7 pounds, whatever it is. I would say, this is incredible. Can I screenshot and share this? Because it's inspirational for others. And they'd say yes. So then I made it about them. I'd be like, oh my gosh, y'all, look, Sarah just sent me this. She lost 7 pounds. She's energized. She's getting her confidence back. Go, Sarah. Who is next? And that kept taking off. I could not believe that product launched a whole business for me. And that product is now that if you were to get the PDF download now, it's like 100 pages, I believe. It's totally been redone. It's also now a best-selling book in stores. It took off, and it took off because it was based on real problem that I figured out a solution to. And I didn't know about competition. I didn't care about competition. I didn't care what other PDFs or programs or anything were out there. I didn't even know what an ebook was when I made it, but it worked, and it was very real and authentic, and it literally launched my whole business.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that. So a question, I don't know if you have an answer to this, but what do you think is like the biggest hurdle for women, like using your own? Was it emotional? Like you put on the weight emotionally? Is it like not feeling alone, not being part of a community? Because it seems like you were sort of filling a few needs, encouraging people.
Totally.
Yeah, tell me your thoughts on
there's
that.
2 answers to that. Well, actually, there's 3 answers. There's 3 answers to that. Number 1 is confidence. If you don't believe, you have to have a win. You have to have a win. And if you've had multiple failures over time, that feels stressful because you're like, you don't want to try again. It's like you need a win. Okay. The next thing is what I call false assumed truths. And women walk around especially with these all the time. And this applies to not just your body and your health. It applies to relationships, finances, what's going on in the world right now. It applies to everything. False assumed truth is basically anything that you are believing that has no legs to it. It's actually not real. So for example, I had a baby, therefore I will never have abs. That's a false assumed truth. And you can find all kinds of evidence to support that. There's many people that think because you had a baby, you can never have abs. But that belief holds you captive because you never will if you believe that. So false assumed truths. And then the third thing is your decision. You have to decide that something's happening for you. When I decided to be a fitness model in my late 30s and people laughed at me, Gio, I've been on 13 magazine covers in my 40s.
I love it.
In my 40s. The last one, you can see it on the wall behind me, that's strong, was last year at age 48. So I'm just saying, I could have easily been that false assumed truth and believed it. I just decided that that wasn't going to be me. It wasn't about, believe me, fitness models are paid squat. It's not like I did that it was for my own goal. And I do believe anyone has the power to change, but they have to have those 3 things. Confidence has to be addressed. They have to decide, and they have to get over those false assumed truths.
Yeah, I love it. So, okay. So what happened next? So you launched this ebook, which turns into this amazing sort of program.
Yeah.
And you start your new entrepreneurial career, which you didn't have much experience in. You said you came from the corporate world. How did life change after that?
Yeah, life changed a lot. And my husband helped me dramatically because my husband, Brooks, is my second husband. And my first one was my starter marriage. This is my actual marriage. But my husband, Brooks, and I started dating right when I had started launching things. And he helped me automate. I didn't know. I was like literally PayPal, email the folder. So he was the one that helped me figure out like, how do you make this automated? My website, I built it myself first on Wix.com. It had music and different colors on every page. And, my husband was like, what is going on here? Like, so he was instrumental in helping me do that. But from there, I really was in the trenches with clients. Like I would live on social media answering questions. I just wanted to help people. So what happened was people would have results with 7-Day Jumpstart, and now they wanted to know how to work out. So every time someone was asking me, I would then create the next thing for them. So I learned how to, I went and produced DVDs, and I made workout DVDs and I did them for home workouts with body weight because I wanted to help moms at the time. So I just kept listening. What do they need? What's my solution to it? And then I created that for them. That worked great until it didn't. And when it stopped working great was when my ego jumped in. See, I know you're familiar with ego. But
oh yeah.
When my ego jumped in, when I started making money, I started having a lot of success, and now I needed more and wanted to do more, and I wanted to be bigger. And that to me meant hire more people, have more marketing people, have somebody write my sales copy. The bigger I got and the more I spread out and the less in touch with the actual customer I was, my business became a nightmare. That's what happened.
Okay. So that's really interesting. So, so before you sort of launched this business, you said you were depressed. You had this like postpartum type depression after you had a kid, or maybe it wasn't postpartum, but you said
I
clinical
don't know what it
depression.
was. Yeah.
And then sort of through serving others and your own transformation, you sort of came totally out of it.
Yep. I was
Yeah. Is
helping
that
others. It felt amazing. And then when I thought I got
sense of
hungry for the
purpose?
more, yes,
So you had a
I
sense of
felt all of it.
purpose.
I felt all of it, but then I started, the competition starts kicking in. Oh, well, so-and-so's doing this, or so I could do more. And then I would start, the things that I loved and enjoyed started to annoy me. I would say, I don't want to answer messages all day long. I don't want to be on customer. So I kept thinking, oh, I need to delegate. I need to hire. I need to this. And what happened with that is I turn, and next thing you know, there's like 40 people working for me in different, whether it's a contractor, an employer, whatever, like all over the place. It wasn't even my voice anymore. And it's not that we weren't selling. People always liked my programs, but I was now not in touch with the actual end user. And that changed things. So what happened was not that my business wasn't making money or helping people. It became not profitable, and I became bummed out, and it wasn't fun anymore.
Okay, so another life challenge came your way, another opportunity for growth. So what happened? How did you shift from there?
So
like,
I wasn't, at first I just kept throwing money at it. Like, okay, well, I just don't have the right marketing person. I don't have the right Facebook ads person. I don't have the right copywriter. And it was like, no one could do enough for me. And I started hating what I did. I really did. I started hating it. Nothing was enough. And I started fighting with my husband a lot. Like nothing he could do was enough. And it honestly took, this is about 3 years ago right now. It took my husband saying he doesn't know if he wants to be married to me anymore to wake me up. Oh, wow. Because I was not hearing anything until that. And when he said that, that's when I had, and by the way, life has a way of sending signs to us. You know, we can choose to listen or not. I had lots of signs. I had ruptured a disc in my back. Okay. I didn't slow me down. I had financially burned out so much money, and gone through people, just didn't listen, didn't want to hear. In fact, the final straw with my husband was I hired consultants that were so crazy overpriced. And these are people they're good people. They're great at what they do. They were friends of ours, but it was so ridiculous what I was paying, thinking I was going to fix a problem, that my husband was like, if you're doing that, like, I'm out of the business. And I can't say what we're doing with each other. Like, I don't even know. And I did it anyway. Like, I kept making mistake after mistake after mistake. But it took I call it like the trifecta: the financial issue, my back, and my husband all set to hit me. And I thought, okay, something's got to give. And what it was is I had to get out of blaming everybody else, which is what I was doing. I was blaming my husband. I was blaming finances. I was blaming the client. I was blaming everyone. And I had to go deep in myself. And I had to fix myself.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to pry too deep, but like, so,
no,
so
you
then
can
what
ask
happened?
anything.
So what happened next? So what's that process like? Yeah.
So it started with
self-awareness is huge. Like, that's what I tell everyone. It's like, it all starts with self-awareness. So like, you know,
totally.
like tapping into your emotion, what's triggering you. And then once you start realizing that, like, everyone is like fucking up.
Everyone was triggering me. Like everyone was.
And then it's like, okay, wait a minute. It can't be that everyone is against me.
Yeah.
Like,
but I thought it was true. I thought that.
I've been there 100 times before.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So my husband jumped in. He was a personal development junkie, I would call it. And I had, like, because I had done Landmark, 15 years ago, I thought I knew everything. I'm like, well, I did personal development. It's like the only thing I had done. And I had, watched The Secret, and I thought I knew personal development. No, I did not know personal development. And I thought it was dumb. I really did. And so my husband would, like, always try to get us into more personal development. And I was like, no. So I met a friend who told me about, it was the very first program I did, like real personal development program. It's called Ascension Leadership Academy. My friend Jenna, who I've become very good friends with, owns that now here in San Diego. And a different friend of mine, my friend Shanda, had said, you have to do this thing called Ascension Leadership Academy. And I didn't want to be rude to her, so I acted like I was listening, but I had no interest. I was like, this is so dumb. So then my husband and I went to dinner with a group of people, and we're all sitting there, and all of a sudden, Brooks and I are sitting together. He's like talking to one side of the table. I'm talking to the other. All of a sudden I hear them all clapping. They're like, Brooks is doing ALA. He's enrolled. And I remember being so annoyed. Like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me right now? Like, okay, great. Do another personal development thing. I was super annoyed, and I had to fake it at dinner. He goes and does this thing, and I was the meanest wife ever while he was doing it. Like, he went before me. I was so like, I cringe at how I was to him and how he just kept showing up for me. Like I love so much about him knowing that he did that because I was not nice. I gave him such a hard time going to this thing. I wasn't supportive. Any phone call he had related to it, the whole thing just annoyed me. But I watched him starting to change. It intrigued me. So he gave me an ultimatum. He said I needed to do it or we weren't staying married. And I was super resentful, but I did it. And I thought I would literally go there and, just muster my way through. And I went the first weekend I did it. There was like a 5-weekend process. First weekend, hated every minute of it. Second weekend, there was a facilitator. He's been on my podcast. His name is Chris Lee. He changed my life because he got me. And he knew how to speak to me. And I think I was his personal project. And I don't even remember exactly what he said or what he did, but it literally changed my life because all of a sudden I was looking at things through a different set of lenses. So that was the start. I came home from that second weekend. I felt like I was a changed person. I thought I was seeing things totally differently. I was embarrassed for the things I had said to my husband. I was embarrassed at how I had showed up. I sat down and poured my heart out to my husband and said, okay, I realize all these things. I'm ready to change. And he said, I don't think I want to stay married to you anymore. Oh, oh my gosh. I was like, wait, what? So that was second midlife crisis. But what was different this time is old me before any of that work would have said, get the F out and done. Wouldn't have even heard another word. Pack your stuff up, go. But this time I said, I understand. I love you and I'm here for you. Whatever you need to do, I'm still here. And I could not believe that was coming out of my mouth. Wow. And he left for a month. He drove across the country. I didn't see him for a month. And I stayed in my place, not trying to be right, just loving him. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, but it was really good for both of us. And that was the beginning of things turning around for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's such an amazing story.
Yeah.
If you can, I just love when people have those like aha moments. Mm-hmm. And because I try to tell people like everyone can change. Everyone has the opportunity to change in just one moment. Because you said like your reality filter or like your perception of reality just changed. You saw something differently.
Yeah.
Is there like any way you can sort of elaborate on that a bit more and like how like the whole world changes where one day it's just like
I saw my ego. I didn't know that that's what it was called at the time. I didn't understand that. We form our ego to keep us safe. So an ego is not a bad thing. It's the thing that keeps us safe. Like the reason I became the person I was, and I've done so much work now, so I'm clear on what happened. It goes back to deep childhood wounds, like how I was raised, things that happened, all that stuff piles up, and your ego's there to keep you safe. So me saying I'm not into personal development, I had all the reasons, but it was really just to keep me safe. Yeah. So I get that now. So when I recognize that popping up now, it's like, okay, is this my ego or is this like really who I am? And doing that first weekend, and that was just the beginning of things. Ascension Leadership Academy was literally just the beginning of things. Doing all of that work was just an opening. It was just the start to things of looking at things different, seeing how I was showing up to others. And they did some incredible activities there. I don't want to, in case someone ever does it, I don't want to ruin it for them. But these activities, they do everything. It's not them talking to you. It's like activities and games you play. And because of those things, you see how you show up to others. And I had this new self-awareness about myself that I had never experienced before.
Wow. And so moving on from then, so then the relationship sort of came back together and then
business
came back. Yeah.
Started to, but it was more and more work. I didn't stop there. I didn't stop at just that. Not only did I do that program, I did it 4 times. So I did it, because one of the opportunities when you do a program like that is you can give back by being of service and like staffing it. So I did that. I wanted to stay in it. So I did it. I went through the whole thing 4 times, helping and being of service, but I stayed in that. I started hiring coaches. I started just getting my hands on anything I could. And I started changing my friends. Like I all of a sudden I wanted a different type of friend. I wanted a friend that would call me forth on these things. I wanted a friend that I could have a real conversation with. I didn't want to just have surface level friends anymore. And I realized that a lot of my friends pre-work were surface level. Who do you know? What do you do? What do you have? I don't care about that anymore. I wanted actual real people that want to make a difference in the world and that I felt a connection to. So I had a changeover in friends. And it's funny because I think back, I had a best friend. She was literally my best friend. And around the time I started doing this, she had disconnected from me and I never understood why. I was really upset about it. Like, why is she not returning my calls or why does she not want to be my friend anymore? I didn't understand. But it all happens for a reason, because that's not someone I could have been friends with after the work that I've done. We're just totally different people now. So I just look at things differently now. And the people in my life it's a different type of relationship I have with people now.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. I've been through very similar process, and not unlike you, in the beginning, I was trying to blame them. Like, why aren't they inviting me over their house? Isn't this? Like they're not good friends. And then I realized it's just like I've changed so much. We have nothing in common. When we're together, I realize I'm probably sound like I'm giving them lectures and trying to motivate them to change. But from them not wanting to hear it, they're like, hey, I just want to drink and get drunk and party and like I don't want to hear about you talking about like, hey, you should come to Costa Rica with me, or you should try this, or and I realized, like a lot of people say things like they want to be around more like-minded people. Mm-hmm. But I think the problem is when you're around everyone that thinks exactly the same and you change, then you're not around them. I was like, I want to be around open-minded people who are on their own search, people who are going to question me, people are going to challenge me, people are going to call me out when I do something that is not right. Because lately it's just been like, oh my God, the universe, like whatever you want to call it, and me have this like hilarious relationship where like I'll call someone out on something and then the next day someone will call me out on almost the exact same thing, but just in a different way. And I just think, oh my God, it's so beautiful, but it's so funny. And it's like, okay, thank you. And thank you on both sides of it. So I love that. I agree with what you're saying, and it just changes. And the other thing I'll just say to that quick, and I'll let you continue, is in order to create space for these new relationships, you got to make space, you know, and sometimes if you have all of these friends, you can't maintain 5,000 friends or 100 friends or whatever, especially depending on how intimate or close relationship is. So, sometimes that's what it looks like. That's what my talk today was about. Like, totally, like making space for change, like the future of humanity. To get to where we need to go, something has to sort of fall apart and break now. Maybe that's what we're witnessing.
And I see that. And
right
I see
now
all that
what's happening. And it might have to go like really far in one direction. And people are like, everyone's gonna say, okay, wait, like this is not working. This is not getting better. Yeah. Let's really fix things rather than like pointing the finger. Because right now it seems like, whether, this is during coronavirus right now, this thing's being recorded. Every single thing that's coming up, whether it's political or not political or health, everyone's trying to point a finger at someone else.
It's so true.
Here's the problem. That's the problem. This country's a problem. This person's a problem. Where it's not like, hey, how can we work together and create solutions?
It's a victim mentality state right now versus like, see, that's the thing, through personal development. And then we haven't even talked about plant medicine yet. That's a whole other level.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, but between personal development, that deep work, meditation, plant medicine, breath work, all those things, like, you start realizing how dangerous victim mentality is, because you can't change anything with that. You have to take personal responsibility. And it's with that personal responsibility that everything opens up and changes, I believe.
Yeah. So maybe Natalie Jill for president 2024 or something like that?
Definitely not.
But I think joking aside, like presidential candidates should have like 4 years of personal development work before they can apply for any office. And ayahuasca. Okay. Yes. So let's jump into there. So we met, was it February already? I've lost.
I don't even know. When were we there?
Time. I think it was February. So yeah, what led you to ayahuasca? So so after this whole thing, you've done all this personal development work. You're back on track. Totally. You've made some changes in your business. Your relationship seemed amazing when you guys got to Costa Rica.
So we kept hearing about, Brooks and I kept hearing about ayahuasca, and now keep in mind, I grew up in the 80s with the, like, this is your brain on drugs. Like the only thing I'd ever done is in high school, did marijuana and all this, but I never thinking of psychedelics or something that was so bad girls do that. Like that's not even a thought. But we kept hearing about ayahuasca, and I was just intrigued about it. So was my husband. We're just intrigued by it. Like, what is this? What is that about? And I know now that when it's time for you to experience it, you will start hearing about it from more people, because that's usually, it speaks to you first. It's not like you're out searching, it speaks to you. And I kept hearing people that I have close relationships with bringing it up. And after like the 5th conversation, I'm like, I must be meant to explore this. So my husband was in Florida, and I was here, and he had an opportunity to go do it. And I remember being upset because I'm like, well, I want to do it with you, but I didn't want him to not have his experience. So he went and did it, and he said it was just incredible, and he filled me in on what had happened. So we were actively then looking to try something like this. Now, when I say I was actively looking, but I also had like 1 foot in and like 10 feet pulling me like, don't do this. And in fact, the very first time we did it, I was completely resisting. Like, I don't want to do this. This is for a bunch of hippies. This is stupid. You know, I remember having a whole big fight with my husband the day we were going to do it. But the first day I did it was not at a retreat. It was with a shaman in the US, and it was a miserable experience for me. And I know now why it was a miserable experience for me. I was fighting it the whole time, because with plant medicine, you have to surrender and be open to it. And I was not. I was very resistant. Like, is this a bad thing? I shouldn't be doing this, the whole time. So the very first experience for me was pretty darn miserable. So what made me go back? That's a whole nother, because that first experience was not fun for me. I thought I would never do it again at all. But the reason I went back is we had an opportunity to work with another shaman, and also went in sort of kicking and screaming. And it was probably the most beautiful weekend of my life when I gave in. And I left there getting the tattoo surrender on my arm, because that was the first time I ever really faced the idea of what true surrendering means, and saw my whole life why things had not worked or worked, like in that weekend. It was so powerful for me. And then that turned me on to plant medicine forever.
Yeah, many people say it's like they spend like 20 or 30 years going to therapy, and like in one night or one weekend, it just like shows them everything. Like that whole perception shift happens in an instant. Like, and they see a whole different view of the world. It's like, you know, the windshield wipers are muddy, and then all of a sudden it's just like crystal clear. It's like, oh, okay, I see now.
And it's not like because I had, you know, I've drank, I'm not an alcohol fan, but I drank alcohol before, and I had definitely done marijuana before, especially like in high school. But that's not what this, if anyone's like listening to this and they've never experienced plant medicine, you know, I don't feel like I'm on drugs when I do it. It doesn't feel like that. I feel like I'm myself. Like, I know if I have to get up to go to the bathroom, I know if I have an itch, like I'm actually present. But there's like, you start separating that voice in your head with who you are in this body. Does that make sense? Even to how I just said that, or does that sound funny? Like it makes
sense to me, because I've done ayahuasca many times before.
But so for somebody who hasn't, everybody has that voice in their head, that voice all day long that's telling you, don't do this, do this, don't. It's almost like it separates the voice in your head and you can see things different. You can see yourself like a movie. Mm-hmm. You see things differently. So for me, it was a huge awakening time for me. And Brooks and I both feel that plant medicine has taken our life, our relationship to a whole nother level. And it's not like let's go do drugs and have fun. That's not what I look at it at all. It's truly medicine. It's medicine.
It can be challenging. It's not always like you said, your first experience, but again, that's probably what you needed, your first experience, to shake things up and move things around. And
and I would never push it on anyone, but I will say, hands down, we would both say it's one of the best things we've ever done.
Yeah, like Terrence McKenna said, it was comparable to like never having sex in your life if you never experienced ayahuasca, because it's so profound of an experience, like so profound and so amazing how like a plant can interact with a human and create an experience like that. It blows my mind, really.
It's really amazing. Like it's like, and I believe now that it's our secret. It's the secret. It's like literally the secret to figuring things out is to have it. And I had always heard so many entrepreneurs doing it. I've heard incredible stories of people healing diseases with it. I get it now. It makes sense to me.
Well, that was what happened to me when I created a documentary about it, because I went down there curious, not really knowing, had a lot of like expectations of what it would be like and the type of people that would be there, thinking again it was gonna be like hippies and but when I went, there was like professionals and like different people that have probably the same traumas that the hippies have, like childhood stuff and growing up and things happening to them. They just life went in different directions, but finding healing the same way, improving their life, changing their direction, doing better at business, like improving the way they live and operate in this world. And like for me, that was like, how is this even illegal in the first place? It's very safe. It's, like safety, it's very, very safe. The potential benefits is like numerous. Physical healing, mental healing, and we're seeing right now all this money starting to be invested into like psychedelic mushroom companies and like stuff that's coming online. So I think it's important for someone like you to share your experience, because a lot of people are looking or curious or like look to you to see like you're doing everything like different, like against the grain, like hey, like 48-year-old should not be on the cover of a magazine. Well, screw that. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? It's like all these things have been told, hey, you shouldn't do this. A woman should not do this. Or if you're good, this is bad. It's like, wait a minute, let's have like an objective sort of reality here. Let's like look at it and like really see like, what is this really all about?
So, it's interesting because a lot of people, they get their spirituality, they have their faith from religion. And I think it's amazing if that's where somebody's getting it. Some people can get there through meditation. Some people get it through their yoga practice. Some people can get it from personal development, going deep. But for me, this is a fast track. I think my ego was too strong to fully see it without plant medicine. Plant medicine has a way of getting in you and breaking down all of that, opening up that veil. So I don't think everybody has to do it or should, but if it's speaking to you or you're curious, I mean, definitely. And like you and I both are huge fans of Rhythmia because it's a legalized place. It's legal to do it there. By the way, there's doctors, they're so thorough there. You have a whole physical when you get there before you're even allowed to do it. It's safe. It's comfortable, the whole thing. And just the healing stories I've seen one after the next, it's incredible. Not just with your own personal life. I mean, it's just with health. I mean, is what it's done for people. It's reversed cancer. It's incredible, the medical benefits behind it.
Yeah, like the potential. It doesn't do that for everyone, but like no, because I think a lot of the issues we have are emotion based. Whether it's physical ailments, whether it's whatever it is, I think it's rooted in some emotional issues that are not taken care of, and over time they manifest into sort of physical ailments. And one other interesting thing that you brought up to me, I totally forgot about, was what that girl had that vision. So sometimes you'll have visions of the future, sometimes you'll have visions of past lives. So it can get pretty weird and interesting. And like, I think they all serve purpose. Like I've had some incredible experiences. If you listen to my YouTube channel, or even those listening, me sharing all these crazy experiences. But tell a little about that girl that shared, and then we all thought she was nuts.
I don't know her name, and I wouldn't say it anyway because I don't want to break anyone's confidence on this. But we were usually, when you do plant medicine, there's at a good center there would be an integration after. You always want to integrate after, because it's kind of like when you have a crazy dream, you want to like process it after. That's what it reminds me of. Like you want to be able to talk it out and process it after. So at Rhythmia, they do integrations after each day, and I think they're really important. But our last day of integration, we were both there. We had a whole week of doing this, and a girl stood up and said, I'm nervous to come to the front of the room, but I feel that I have to share this and warn you guys, I've been given the gift of prophecy. And we all kind of looked at each other like, okay, she's a little cuckoo. I mean, that's what I was thinking. She said, I'm to warn you that there's civil war coming to United States and Canada. Now, this is before quarantine. This is before the riots and the protests. This is before any of that. We thought she was crazy, and she was literally right. Like, she was given that gift because you do see so much when you do ayahuasca.
Yeah. So that was insane. And that was probably the day that I met you, because we hadn't really talked much all week.
Yeah.
I try to talk to everyone. Like we'd said hi a couple times, and then we realized we both know Alex. So we had a mutual friend, and then we just got to chatting, and next thing you know, it's like, yeah, I want to interview my podcast.
Yeah.
She told me her story, and at the time you had a bicep. How's the bicep doing?
Oh my gosh, finally. It's 15 weeks post-surgery, so it's reattached, and yeah, that I
Ready
had
to go?
crazy. Costa Rica was crazy for me for so many reasons. That's where I also tore my bicep. But wow, yeah, I can't wait to go back to Rhythmia. I want to go there. And now that I've done it at Rhythmia, I don't know that I would do it anyplace else. Like at least ayahuasca, I think I would want to go there.
For me, it's probably the best week of my life every time I go there, because it's just so powerful and the experiences are very deep. But what I love the most about it is you see like 100 strangers come, and when they get off that bus the first time, now I know, because I look and everyone looks beat up, like bags in their eyes, depressed, just like, except people who've been there before and are returning, they're just like, yeah, I can't wait to get this started. But by the end of the week, it's like everyone becomes friendly. Everyone's like talking to each other. Everyone's changing. People's faces look different.
Connected, because you remember connection and love. That's the big thing. And I think that's exactly, because really, I believe we're all here having a human experience, but our souls are everlasting. I mean, I believe that. And I believe it even stronger now that I've done plant medicine. I can see it. And I also believe now we are all meant to love and be connected. So that comes up super strong for me every time. And it's, we were joking before we started recording that, gosh, we wouldn't have a civil war if everyone would do ayahuasca. We wouldn't. It wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that should be part of the new rehabilitation process or something. It's like plant medicine. And, so I hope that, there's enough ayahuasca for 7 billion people and or those who want it. I'll rephrase that. But I think it's a tool that's available. And like you mentioned, like some people it's meditation, some people it's personal development. Personally, all those things you mentioned, I use all of them. I try to be as well-rounded as possible, because I know ayahuasca by itself is not the answer.
Correct.
Because if you just did ayahuasca without all the other tools you had, it wouldn't have the same effect. For some people, they need it to break out of their reality. But I find people that have other practices and work, it all it multiplies. It's like a multiplier.
So for me, I don't know about you, but it helps me now that I've had ayahuasca experiences. I can get deeper in breath work. I can go deeper in meditation. I can go deeper in yoga. All of it helps me recognize where I want to get to.
And I bet you any money that all those practices also help you get deeper into the ayahuasca.
Probably.
Just like the deeper. So I think it's the more connected you are with all these practices, the deeper everything gets, the more awareness you have.
True.
And I tell people, it's like, don't idolize any one thing as like the answer. The answer is inside of you.
It's in you.
And that's what we're trying to get more awareness towards who we really are. And all of these things, the good, the bad, the depression you had, the second sort of business that's more awareness. You're just finding out like, who is Natalie? And it happens to me all the time. Like every few years, it's like I fall down in a different way, and it's like, okay, time to learn about myself again. Yeah.
It's so funny too, because you had asked me originally before we started recording, you said, are you open to sharing about plant medicine? And my ego is like, no, I can't, people will judge. But the reason I do, and I'm open and I won't ever lie about it, is because there's a lot of people doing it that are not sharing. There's a lot of people doing it that are not sharing. And I don't feel right not sharing it, because it is something that could be so helpful to so many people. So for me if I'm not going to share it, what hope do we have? Because it's very rare that you'll see somebody that you consider normal talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the key too. It's potentially can be for every person. Like no matter what color your skin is, how much money you have, what you do for a living, I think can benefit anybody if, they feel called to it. So
yes.
I thank you for sharing openly and, pushing past that boundary a little bit. I guess from here, we've been on for 40 minutes. We've got a lot of amazing information, stories. I guess the last question before telling people where they can reach you is like, what's next for you? Like, what are you super passionate about right now? Like, what are you like really focusing your energy towards?
It's so funny. This is going to sound bizarre. Maybe it won't sound bizarre to you, but I spent my whole life chasing like the next. I don't feel like I need to chase anymore. I'm actually happy and present, and I want more of that. So that might sound bizarre to people, but that, some people are scared to do personal development or plant medicine because they're like, I don't want to lose my drive. And I would have said that too.
I hear that all the time.
It's different. I have more success, more connection, more happiness, more income, more all of that being less focused on chasing now.
Well, most people don't realize that success is another form of addiction that creates unhappiness, because you're so focused on that because you think it's going to give you happiness the more you get, but that's infinite. So you just want more and more and more. So it's like you're always like got a carrot dangling over your head where it's like it's just right there.
It's gone for me, and that hasn't. And I would have been scared to say that before, but my drive is not gone. It's just changed. Like,
so what does that look like? Yeah, what does that look like?
It looks great. Like I don't. My days are not crazy busy anymore, ever. Like, I say yes to things I want to say yes to. It's not based on, you know, who's going to hear it or I don't do that. I just, what do I want to say yes to? Who do I want to serve and help? What feels good to me? That's how I base my day now. And I feel really good. And what that's allowed is it's allowed me to go deeper and be more present on the important things. It really has. And it lets me get back to really being with the client, being with the customer. Like, I just go deeper with things, and I have better perspective because I've slowed down. So when you say what's next, I don't know. I'm just enjoying things right now. And I have a few things I'm working on, but I'm going with the flow right now, and it feels really good.
I love it. What's next is right now. That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So if people do want to contact you or find you, where do they find you?
So my website's nataliejillfitness.com or nataliejill.com will take you there too. My social media is Natalie Jill Fit. I'm a big presence on Instagram and Facebook. I'm there a lot. And then I have a podcast called Leveling Up.
Awesome.
It's in the self-help category.
Awesome. Yeah. And the process you talked about, that the vision board, or what do you call it? Do you have a name for it?
I have a method. It's just the aging in reverse method. And it's really, it's intertwined in all my books and through all my programs, whether you're a private coaching client of mine, or you come to one of my VIP weekends, or you just pick up one of my books at the bookstore. The method is weaved throughout all of that, where it's the same process where I take you through creating a vision, making a decision, figuring out I call DCM, your driving core motivator. And then we always touch on plate and weight. Plate is what you're eating, because the nutrition is a huge part of what I do too. And then how you move your body. So all of it.
Awesome. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Natalie, for spending time here today chatting. I always love our conversations. They're great. Yeah. Please say hello to Brooks for me. Tell him I say what's up. And hopefully I can get down to California sooner than later.
Otherwise, we'll see each other in Costa Rica again, I'm sure.
Costa Rica. Yeah. I'm hoping to be there in July, but again, everything's up in the air. There's no flights right now. The country's not even open. So hopefully we do see you there, and keep up the great work, keep inspiring, keep doing what you do, being authentic and transparent. I think that's one of your superpowers. So
thank you.
Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.